Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Very recently, the Scottish Government took the Information Commissioner to court. They were attempting to block all the information and all the evidence that was used in Nicola Sturgeon being accused of misleading Parliament over the Alex Salmond case a few years ago, with all that shenanigans about the alleged sexual shenanigans by Alex Salmond, which of course he won the case. He is completely innocent. I don't doubt that at all. But they didn't want this all coming out. They didn't want it to be seen because the Grand Leaderine is supposed to be perfect in every way, and they didn't want this being regurgitated in case other stuff came out that may be more damaging. Also, they don't want to set a precedent, and so they decided that they had to fight it. Unfortunately, of course, they lost. But at what cost? What cost to the taxpayer was it to try and protect Sturgeon, her legacy, and of course set a precedent that future stuff could also be kept entirely secret? Don't want people knowing after all, do they? Well, it turns out it was £30,000. Money that could be better spent in other places, I suppose. But we'll see why it went and why they covered it up and who really is ultimately responsible. Here goes. So, secretive Scottish Government, who'd have thought that, eh? Spent £30,000 of taxpayer cash on the attempt to hide Nicola Sturgeon's Alex Salmond evidence. They really do everything they can as snidely and as secretively and as sleekly as they possibly can to somehow and for some reason protect this toxic woman who's no longer the leader and has no longer got the power that she had, and she'll soon be out of politics. The Scottish Government took the Scottish Information Commissioner to court in an attempt to block the publication of evidence of Nicola Sturgeon being accused of misleading Parliament during the probe into sexual misconduct complaints against her predecessor. Just think that. Nicola Sturgeon not entirely being honest, misleading, lying, covering up the truth. It's hard to believe, isn't it? The secretive Scottish Government splashed out 30k of taxpayers' cash in an attempt to block key evidence about whether Sturgeon misled Parliament from being published. The SNP executive took the Information Commissioner to court after the watchdog ordered it to publish James Hamilton's report. And then they tried to use sort of a very strict interpretation of the orders given to say, no, they asked for this that was held and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, no, he doesn't hold it, and etc. And then, of course, they lost the case and they were forced to publish it. But they're doing their best and they're going to appeal it. And it's just... they cannot honestly tell the truth about anything. If they swallowed a nail, it would come out their arse like a corkscrew. Ms Sturgeon submitted herself to the independent advisor on the ministerial code after being accused of breaching the rules, which could have led to her resignation. When ultimately, of course, she did resign, but she could have resigned a lot earlier and saved the country an awful lot of stress and problems. It involved her handling of sexual misconduct complaints against her predecessor, Alex Salmond. She was accused of failing to record meetings and phone calls she had with Mr Salmond and his former chief of staff after he was the subject of complaints from two civil servants. Turns out a load of old rubbish, really, doesn't it? Mr Hamilton investigated this and issued a report in March 2021 in which he determined the former First Minister did not breach the code. This time. He didn't say this time, but we can say that. Anyway, the committee set up to investigate the scandal found that she did breach it, but Miss Sturgeon survived a vote of no confidence at Holyrood. A member of the public, Benjamin Harrop, requested all written evidence gathered by the lawyer during his investigation through freedom of information laws. But this was denied by SNP ministers. Because, of course, the last thing they want is evidence to get out there, the truth to get out there, people to understand what happened. They don't want people to see what a nasty bunch the SNP are. They don't want to see all the infighting. They don't want to see the lying, the corruption. They don't want to see all the cancerous two-facedness of the SNP. They declined to hand over this dossier on 2 occasions, hiding behind a loophole, as they claimed that they did not hold it as Mr Hamilton was an independent contractor and not a member of the Scottish Government. However, the Scottish Information Commissioner ruled against them. This prompted the SNP government to take the watchdog to the Court of Session and prolong the 2-year fight for transparency, and it ended in a humiliating defeat for the government. In fact, they've gone to court now, is it 8, possibly 9 times, I think, and they've lost every single case they've gone to court over. And the thing is, they get the legal advice, from Bain or wherever, and then they're not publishing the legal advice in advance. And they refuse to publish the legal advice, because the legal advice always says, don't fight this, you'll lose. But then they fight it on the hope they might win, and then they lose. If they're given legal advice, don't fight it, and then they fight it, they must be liable for the cost. It cannot go down to the taxpayer. Anyway, it took the judge just seconds. 3 judges took them just seconds to decide that it was in the wrong, and they sent it back to the drawing board. Oh dear, what a shame, how embarrassing. Let the truth fly free. Anyway, now the Scottish Daily Express can reveal that it has cost the public purse £30,000 to keep the documents secret. The government said the total cost incurred to date is £25,000 plus £5,000 VAT. These costs relate to the securing of external advice and representation in court from external counsel. These costs were met by the Scottish Government. They were met, therefore, by the taxpayer. The taxpayers had to fork out £30,000 to try and protect Sturgeon and who is trying to keep the truth from coming out. Your truth is being hidden and you are paying for it. Judges at the Court of Session released a scathing ruling about the arguments from the SNP and said that it attempted to put up a technical barrier that would have defeated open and transparent government. They added that such an approach would be liable to restrict the disclosure of information in ways that run counter to the clear legislative policy. And that, of course, was why they were doing it. They were trying to get this precedent that they could hide information despite the law being otherwise, because they know there's a lot of information out there that they really don't want anyone seeing ever. The ruling continued, whether information is or is not held by a public authority is fundamentally a question of fact. Sophisticated legal analysis of the meaning of the concept of holding information is neither necessary nor appropriate. In other words, if it exists, they must release it. He said it is clear from this decision that by the Commissioner fully understood on the law of what was intended by the concept of holding information, and that he correctly applied the law to the facts and the circumstances of the case. He recognised in particular that the issue did not revolve around the interpretation of the arrangements made for Mr Hamilton's independence from the Scottish Government, but turned instead onto the narrower question of whether the information was held by Scottish ministers basically at all. So it doesn't matter who owns it or whether it's being held on behalf of, etc. It's simply if they have possession, it must be released. And that is where everything hinges, and that's why they're so scared. Shadow Secretary for Business, Economic Growth and Tourism, Murdo Fraser, MSP, said the SNP government seems to have an inexhaustible appetite for squandering taxpayers' money on court cases that they almost always lose. Well, of the last 8, they've lost 8, but I think it might be the last 9, they've lost 9. I've lost count how many they've lost. I couldn't tell you the last time they won. The challenge to the Information Commissioner was a particular obvious waste of time and money, since they could simply have put aside their habitual secrecy and avoidance of accountability and come clean with the public in the first place. They don't ever want to come clean. They have to hide as much as they can, as long as they can. It's how they maintain their organised criminal unit for getting on 17 years now. The truth ever comes out, they'll all be in jail. Anyway, the Scottish Government need to decide whether to publish the report or attempt to hide behind another loophole, and it has been approached for comment, but comment came there none. But they are looking now to not publish it, because they think they've got another loophole that they can use to not publish it, which then means another court case, even more costs, and eventually it will come out, of course. But it could, who knows, 100,000, £250,000? How much money will they waste trying to protect Sturgeon's legacy? Sad, sad, sad. Coming up. They will not ever admit the truth about anything. They don't ever want to get into the habit of telling the truth. Everything has got to be covered up. Everything has got to be a lie. Even things that are completely innocent and can be freely admitted, they will still lie about it or cover it up or never admit it. Because it's policy. Lies are policy. Cover-ups are policy. Secrecy is policy. Never tell the truth when a lie will do. Unbelievable people. And people still vote for them. The morons out there who know that they're lying and they still vote for them. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching this one. Do please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.